Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the podcast, the Overwhelmed Vet podcast. Today, I want to speak to you about something where I see a lot of suffering happening for people, both vets and non-vets. This is literally a podcast about how not to get upset by other people and their behavior, how they act towards you, and how they act in the world in general. It is such a big cause of suffering, inner suffering, and something that makes us so frustrated, so angry, so upset in so many ways, right? And I want to give you some tools to make it a bit easier for you to navigate because we can literally not control what other people do or don't do. So you need to see how you have so much control over how your perception is of other people, not as much control over what other people do, but what you decide to think about them. So I want to give you a few examples where I see people really, really getting tripped up and having like so much drama around and so much brain spin and wasting so much energy on stuff they cannot change. One is, for example, management. If you work for corporates, you know that they have a funny way of making protocols, of managing things. And I had a client the other day that she's fairly how do I say this? She's fairly focused on how the management of her clinic invest their money. She thinks it should be invested in specific things, and then they end up spending the money on some like really expensive equipment that the client cannot really afford, and nobody really know why they spend it, right? And also her direct manager, like how he manages, how he micromanages, how annoying he is, how he just can't make a decision, and how he doesn't answer the emails. And she spends a lot of time on that, and we spend some time coaching on it because it's something that takes up a big part of her life, right? So that is one thing that can really grind us down, is like looking at our colleagues or looking at our management and how they are managing and getting so frustrated and upset about it, when in reality there's not much we can do. I mean, most clinics will have the little letterbox where you can put like questions and suggestions in, so you can suggest changes, and by all means, like take some sort of action where you say, I don't agree with this, I think you should do this. But once they have voted, they have made the decision, and they have invested the money, just let it go, right? You need to really realize when you are getting upset and frustrated and angry about something you cannot control. So that is like a big thing I tend to coach on a personal level. I have some friends that have a quite rebellious kid, and I think this is something, I think the life of school, like the school of life when you're a parent, is like the one that will definitely humble you, and it will push you to the limit. And the frustration about how other people is just like so accentuated when you're a parent, right? They have a really rebellious kid who's now about 15, and they are getting so worked up about how this kid should behave, the things the kid should do and shouldn't do, and everything is just wrong, and they are just like stuck in a way. And I have recommended like some colleagues I have that it could work with to try and change the family dynamic, but they're so focused on what the kid does and how the kid needs to change in order for them to be happy. Another thing that really, really can upset us is client behavior. And there's two ways, right, that they can upset us. They can upset us by direct cruelty to animals. They come in with this dog or cat with full of knots, suffering. Maybe they have some infections, they have suffered, they should have been put down 6 months ago. Maybe a direct cruelty, like evil exists in the world, right? And we get really upset by this, and we have all these expectations around they shouldn't have done this, it should have been brought in sooner, they shouldn't have been allowed to have an animal, why did they not vaccinate, why didn't they do this? If you follow me, you know that some months ago we had a dog in with a leptospirosis, which is totally preventable by vaccination, right? And I myself had a lot of mind drama around this beautiful 2-year-old Labrador that was putting us all in danger by you know, she was in isolation, urinating everywhere. We went in with full protection, and it was quite scary, right? And we were having a lot of heated discussions between our staff, thinking like, why didn't I not vaccinate her? What are they doing? And look at now she's suffering, and should we send her for dialysis? And all the money they spent, and then the dog ended up being put to sleep in the end anyway. And you just go, oh, you know, why did they do this? And you want these owners to be different. You want them to have done something different, right? And we take this and we take it home, and we talk about it, and we talk to our colleagues about it, how this person has upset us because they have done or not done something specific to an animal in a way that it could be cruelty or just downright stupidity or lack of common sense. And then we have the other way claims can upset us is like when they're late, when they don't administer the treatments, when, you know, they are disrespectful to us, and they just kind of mess around with our day just because they are annoying and they are late, and they don't do what we would expect from an educated, normal person with common sense. You know, they call, oh, we're going to be there in half an hour with this like dog that's bleeding out, and you're all ready for them to come in. And 45 minutes later, you call them and they are like, oh no, we managed to stop the bleeding, we're not coming in. You're like, you know, just getting really annoyed. And the problem is not when you get annoyed, you get upset in the moment. The problem is when you let this like land and you start mulling about how people should be different and how they shouldn't do this, and you just get really worked up, right? I just give you a lot of examples because they actually come back to the same thing, which is us struggling to accept that there's evil in the world, there's people with very little common sense in the world, there's people that have a completely different education, upbringing, surroundings than us, people that obviously don't have the same background at us in vet med. They don't know a lot of things we have, that businesses are being set up in a way that no longer looks at, you know, there's a lot of corporates are being set up by people that are not vets, so their perception of things is going to be very different from our perception of things, and it's our choice to work for them or not. So the first step in you not getting so upset and not lying awake and not getting angrier and angrier and angrier is being able to accept things as they are. So if you, for some reason, have done your best trying to bring your kid up, but your kid has turned out a certain way, or if your kid has been born with some, say, ADHD, autism, whatever, some sort of deficiency is just different, you being able to accept that that is the reality you have now. It doesn't mean you don't want to change anything, or you don't want to educate your child, or you don't want to educate people in trying to be there on time or treat the animals in a certain way, but accepting what is right now and be able to not want to change something that you can't change. You know, like if the animal has come and mistreated, it's been mistreated, right? And you cannot change that. That has happened. No matter how much you think it shouldn't have happened, it has happened. Okay, if the management, instead of getting you more staff so you could maybe have more time to work on patients, instead of that, they buy a MRI scanner or CT scanner that maybe people in your area don't have money enough to actually pay for and use, you know, that once the money has been invested, you have to accept that that's the situation you have right now, you know, because you cannot change it. It's happened now. Okay, so now you need to move on. No, you need to deal with what you have right now. So that's the first step in trying to not be so upset about what people do or don't do around you. And the second step is looking at like, okay, so what can I do within reason right now? The first thing you have to do is assume your responsibility on this. And this goes both on and kind of like for you and against you, you can say. So for example, if you're a parent and your kid is acting like this right now, and the psychologist says, well, the way you brought the kid up has now turned out that this is how it is, you have to assume that responsibility. You cannot put it on the kid and say, oh, you know, the kid shouldn't be like this and it should have worked out the way I brought it up. You have to say, okay, so this is my responsibility, is what I've done up to now. If I can accept that and if I can take that responsibility, that means that now I can make a change going forward, right? But you have to take that responsibility and you have to look at yourself in the eyes and be honest and say, what have I done up to now and what hasn't worked? And I need to take that responsibility and then go from there onwards, right? Because as long as you keep putting everything on your kid, then nothing is going to change, because you cannot change the kid, right? You can only change yourself. And with the clients, the same. So if an animal has been mistreated, that's a case of cruelty, or just people just being stupid, and they bring in an animal in terrible conditions, you can then, okay, accept, this is what I've got right now, this is what's happened. Okay, that doesn't mean you're not going to call the police, if it's a downright cruelty, or you're not going to tell the client, look, like next time do different. But what can accept what is, and then what can I do now within reason? So you cannot go back in time and educate this client 2 years ago when it started going downhill. You cannot change, like, there's homeless people maybe that don't know, like, on the street. You cannot change that some people have no education around how to have animals. You cannot change that there's going to be bulldog breeders in the world, my big pet peeve. But once they come in, so, okay, so what can I do now? So maybe the kindest thing is to put this animal to sleep because there's just too much suffering. Or maybe you can then change something, I don't know, cut the nuts off and give it antibiotics, or rehome it, or there's something. What can I do within reason with what the resources I have right now and the condition the animal is in? It is just no use looking at a cat that's eaten lilies, or a cat that's eaten paracetamol, or people that have overdosed with meloxicam, and it's really young and it's very sad and it shouldn't have happened, and go over and over like how it shouldn't have happened and how it's terrible. You just need to accept that this is what you have right now, and what can you do? And then not going down the road of being frustrated that you cannot do more. And if they had only brought it in earlier, and if someone hadn't given them this paracetamol, because that is something that cannot be changed. So you really need to, like, first accept what is right now, and then assume your responsibility right now, from now on. Like, what can you do within reason? And then you need to be proud of that as well. Like, if you're a vet, there's no upside of you beating yourself up for not having been there before for the animal, or for not being able to do more if they had only brought it in before, right? You need to look at where it is now. It's suffering terribly. I can put it down in a kind way, and I can end the suffering, end of story. There's nothing more I can do. You cannot take, and I know it sounds like, when I say it like this, it sounds completely stupid. Like, why would you take responsibility for something the owner did a while ago? But I think vets, we tend to accumulate all this sadness and all this shouldn't have happenedness, and we just let it weigh on us, oh, this shouldn't have happened, and this and the other. Okay, but it did. You need to accept it. And okay, what can you do now? And then just look at the positive effect you are having from an animal from the moment it came into your care, and don't look into the past of all the not care it had when you were not around. And then the third step, so first accepting, next, what can I do right now with the resources I have, with the money the client has right now, whatever the situation is. And then the third is, and then let it go. Watch out for your brain making up stories around this. Watch out for your brain Disneyfying cases, Disneyfying animals coming in, stories. Watch out for your brain making up stories about what should have been the right way to do this according to your education and your perception of the world. And watch out for all the stories around, this old lady whose husband died, and this and the other, and then that shouldn't have happened, and so many lonely old people in your country, and it shouldn't be. Yes, accept it. It's a reality. Help where you can, but then you need to let it go. You need to watch your brain when it starts spinning and just going over and over how sad everything is, or how frustrating everything is, and how evil people are. And yes, some people are evil. Evil exists in the world. Normally it's people that has been hurt in some way or other, but it exists. And the only problem is that all this sadness and evil and cruelty that comes up, or stuff that's not working, or the stupidity of management and stuff, it just makes so much noise in our brains, right? And all the lovely people, all the lovely kids, all the lovely managers we have, they just don't shout that loud. We don't notice them that much. And if we only focus on everybody that are not behaving like we think they should, be their kids, managers or clients or colleagues, if we keep focusing on those, you're going to make your life miserable. And that's how you can end up hating vetmed, right? You're going to end up hating your life, because to you it seems that everybody around you are useless and cruel and have no common sense, and nothing is working, right? Because your brain is going to keep telling those stories all over and over. It does it to protect you, right? Because it wants you to make sure everything is everything is working and everybody are nice to each other, and it wants you to make sure life is safe. And that is just the primitive brain doing its job from when back when we lived in caves and we were in a community of about 30 people, and everybody had to pull their weight and everybody had to like function and be nice to each other, because otherwise we would die. In the society we are in now, there's so many people around us. There's no way you can control everybody. Like, look at the trolls on the internet, right? Like, you can sit, somebody writes a horrible review about your clinic, you can sit and soak in it forever, and they shouldn't have done that, and people are horrible. Yes, some people are horrible, or maybe it was just a robot, who knows. But what can you do right now with what you got? And also focus on all the lovely reviews you do have, right? Don't let it get to you, in the sense that you just go over and over and over stuff and you're not accepting the reality there is, and then fighting that reality all the time, and then not doing what you can in this moment because you're so caught up in what should have been different. So accepting what is, what can I do within reason with what I've got right now? Assume responsibility for what you can do now, and letting it go. Watch out for story brain making up stories and wanting to like drag you down into this drama that doesn't have to be a drama, right? That you can just deal with what you have right now and then let it go. I hope this was helpful. Please reach out if you have any ideas for anything you wanted me to talk about. I have like a list of 50 stuff that's happened to me or clients that I want to talk about that can help you. But yeah, by all means, let me know. Any feedback is appreciated on notes on the podcast or on social, or email me. Thank you. Bye.